Welcome to our channel, everyone. In this captivating tale, we follow Princess Aurelia and the steadfast mercenary Marcus as they brave horrors beyond imagination. The most heart-stopping moment comes at the very end, when Marcus confronts the colossal force of the void that hungers, risking everything to protect Aurelia and the Empire. Will his unbreakable willpower be enough to keep them both alive and save countless lives? To find out, be sure to stick around and listen to the full story. You won't want to miss the electrifying conclusion. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. We have plenty more incredible adventures and riveting storylines on the way. And while you're at it, feel free to drop a comment below. Let us know your thoughts, how you listened in, and what you'd like to see next. Word traveled swiftly through the Empire of Arathion. Princess Aurelia had been assigned a new personal bodyguard. In the opulent halls of the gilded citadel, where crystal lanterns glowed above black marble floors veined with gold, whispers persisted that this latest guardian was a human mercenary from the frontier. The idea alone was provocative. Arathion prided itself on centuries of refined genetic enhancements, taller stature, agile reflexes, and almost luminous beauty. By contrast, humans were widely viewed as hardscrabble survivors, shorter, less elegant, and far too impulsive. So it was with begrudging acceptance that Aurelia stood on the mezzanine of the central spire, peering down at the palace courtyard. The wind carried faint notes of rose lavender from the extensive gardens below. Her silver-white hair was styled high, pinned with filigree combs. The rest of her attire, a gown of shimmering black satin trimmed in embroidered sunbursts, proclaimed her high station, though she found it stifling. Official events demanded tradition. At the far end of the courtyard, members of the Imperial Guard parted to reveal a figure wearing rugged tactical gear. He was broad-shouldered, his brown hair kept short, scars visible along his forearms. He looked nothing like an Arathian soldier, who would have worn gleaming armor or elegantly tailored uniforms. This man seemed forged by conflict, shaped by harsh winds and dust-laden fronts. Aurelia pressed her lips into a slight frown. "So that's him," she muttered under her breath. Behind her, High Chamberlain Kestrel, an Arathion official whose sweeping pale robes contrasted with her emerald skin, dared to speak. "Your Highness, Marcus Cleary is reputed to be efficient. Perhaps you need not worry." "I should hope so," Aurelia replied, voice cool. "I cannot imagine the Imperial Council assigning him otherwise." She turned on her heel and swept away, heading to the throne room where they would formally present this human to her service. Her heart bristled with the notion. Humans were cunning, yes, capable of abrupt leaps in logic, and famed for throwing themselves into madness when pressed. But were they truly fit to guard the life of an imperial heir? As she walked through a colonnade lined with living glass sculptures, sunlight caught the gold threads of her gown. She thought of Arathion's proud heritage, of generations building a civilization of wonders. This human would have to prove himself worthy of that heritage. In the throne room's hallowed space, the polished obsidian floor reflected torches crackling with azure flames. Tall windows revealed the skyline of spires, each crowned with a flickering crest of radiant gold. Courtiers and advisors stood in hushed formation, tension radiating from them as they awaited the newcomer's official introduction. Aurelia took her seat upon a gleaming black throne. This seat, an heirloom from Arathion's founding era, rose behind her like a pair of soaring wings. Strands of her silver-white hair had loosened from her formal updo, brushing her cheeks. She forced herself not to fidget and instead exuded the poised elegance expected of an imperial princess. "Present the new bodyguard," commanded Advisor Darren, a tall Arathian with a regal chin and swirling tattoos along his temples that denoted advanced telepathic training. The double doors at the far end of the chamber swung open. Marcus Cleary entered with purposeful strides. He moved without flourish, eyes scanning, measuring. The courtiers seemed equally fascinated and appalled. He was clearly muscular, with shoulders more robust than the typical Arathian aesthetic. Though not exceptionally tall by their standards, he walked with the stance of someone who had faced the worst of life and survived. His attire, a dark, form-fitting uniform of ballistic fiber, was practical. He wore no cape, no decorative plating, only a subdued patch bearing the insignia of the Arathian crest, a stylized sun disk. Over one shoulder, he carried a small bag, presumably holding personal effects or specialized gear. At the foot of the dais, Marcus bowed, not with the polished courtesy of an Arathion noble, but a swift, soldierly motion. "Your Highness," he said in a steady baritone, "I'm Marcus Cleary. I'm honored by this assignment." Aurelia inspected him in silence for a moment, letting tension coil. She'd been taught how to wield silence to encourage respect or fear in those addressing her. She expected some sign of intimidation, a twitch in his shoulders, a shifting stance. Instead, he remained as stable as stone, returning her gaze directly without defiance. "They say," she began, "you hail from the outlying frontier worlds, that you've survived uprising, skirmishes, disasters, and more. And yet you stand here with not a single outward sign of—" He lightly raised an eyebrow at the words, "not a single outward sign," possibly referencing the faint scars on his arms and neck. But Aurelia pressed on. "Do you truly believe you can protect me, a princess of Arathion, from the threats to our empire?" "I do." No bravado, no lengthy speech, just two words. The bare confidence of them made her breath catch, an unexpected response. She had anticipated either a groveling vow or perhaps some stiff-lipped, formal pledge. Instead, then, he gave her something else, unwavering certainty. Her posture turned aloof. "Very well," she said. "You will begin your duties immediately." "Dismissed." Marcus bowed again, pivoted sharply, and exited. The aristocrats parted for him in a wave of delicate fabrics. Once he was gone, Advisor Darren coughed politely. "Your Highness, is this wise? The frontier mercenaries are known for their disregard of tradition." Aurelia stood, letting the hush that fell over the court linger. "I've seen less discipline among some of our own," she said, deciding to cut short any further doubts. "Perhaps a human viewpoint is exactly what we need right now." She had no idea how prophetic those words would soon prove to be. Within days, an unsettling dispatch arrived at the Gilded Citadel. An entire planetary station had gone silent. Telos 5, an Arathion outpost lauded for its strategic importance, had simply stopped transmitting. It was widely believed that nothing short of a large-scale invasion could achieve such total annihilation. Yet no enemy ships had been reported in the region. Aurelia and Marcus learned of this disturbing news at midday from an urgent message delivered by a trembling courier. Marcus had been shadowing the princess, anonymously, from a short distance, while she walked through the gardens. But upon hearing that Telos 5 was no longer responding to any signals, Aurelia's calm veneer slipped. Telos 5 was heavily guarded, she told Marcus, eyes narrowed at the data slate's readout, fortified with advanced deterrents and shield generators. For them to vanish without a trace is impossible under normal circumstances, Marcus finished quietly. She studied him, somewhat surprised by how naturally he grasped the situation. "You're aware of Arathion's shield technologies?" "I've faced them before," Marcus replied, the hint of a wry smile ghosting his lips. "Not from your empire directly, but I've had entanglements." His gaze shifted momentarily, as if recalling an unpleasant memory. Aurelia wanted to press further, her curiosity piqued by the clarity and darkness behind his eyes, but the swift footsteps of Advisor Darren interrupted them. "My princess," Darren said, breathless, "you're needed in the War Council chamber at once." Marcus instinctively fell into step behind Aurelia as they made their way through the labyrinth of corridors. Unlike the palace's front halls filled with high windows and artful statues, the War Council wing was more utilitarian. Dark metal panels lined the walls, humming softly with energy. Servitors bustled along the hall carrying data cartridges or adjusting holo projectors. When they reached the secure chamber, Aurelia found it brimming with top-ranking officers, scientists, and intelligence analysts. At the center hovered a massive holo display of the Telos system, with the planet Telos 5 highlighted in red. Lines of static indicated incomplete data streams. Captain Idris, a stoic Arathian officer in black lacquered armor, gestured to the map. "We lost contact at precisely 0200 hours. No distress call, no final transmissions." "Pirates?" Aurelia asked, though even as she spoke, it felt too small an explanation. "Pirates would leave evidence of raids, leftover ships, or demands," Idris replied. "Whatever happened, it wiped out communications entirely in a matter of moments." Advisor Darren's face was grim. "The last halved transmission mentions something unseen, a presence. Murmurs rippled around the table. Aurelia's pulse quickened. A presence. Marcus stood near the chamber's perimeter, arms folded. He said nothing, but she spotted a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Captain Idris continued, "We have a small fleet ready to investigate, but we thought it prudent to consult you, Princess. If the threat is unknown, risking more Arathion ships could be disastrous." She took a measured breath. All eyes were on her. The weight of authority settled on her shoulders. "Dispatch a reconnaissance vessel with a minimal crew. Bring back any visual or sensor data. Until we know what we're dealing with, we proceed with caution." Some bristled. Arathion culture favored boldness. But the blunt truth was that no one had answers. Marcus quietly seemed to approve. In the days that followed, Arathion's news streams obsessed over the Telos 5 mystery. Speculations ran wild. A natural disaster, a cosmic storm, sabotage by a hidden foe. The palace halls buzzed with rumor and dread, culminating in an undercurrent of fear that Aurelia tried to mask. She filled her time with strategic conferences, reading newly incoming intelligence, or patrolling the corridors, ever aware of Marcus's watchful presence. Despite her initial misgivings, she found his calm steadiness oddly reassuring. In every meeting or corridor conversation, she felt his gaze lightly scanning, ensuring she was safe. The notion that this duty-bound man might step forward to take a blow meant for her sometimes made her skin tingle with an unsettling mixture of guilt and something else. They rarely spoke personally, but an unspoken dynamic formed. She would test him with clipped remarks. He would respond with laconic honesty. She caught herself studying the faint scar on his jaw or the tension in his shoulders. Perhaps it was merely curiosity, but it began to feel like more. One late evening, Aurelia found him standing guard in a near-deserted gallery of the palace, gazing at a large mosaic that spanned an entire wall. The mosaic depicted Arathion's legendary founder, Saint Ornara, who supposedly united the warring tribes under one banner. Marcus didn't hear her approach until she was almost by his side. "Fascinated by our history?" she asked, voice echoing slightly in the quiet hall. He tilted his head. "Trying to understand your empire's perspective. We humans," he paused, then glanced at her. "We seldom have this sense of unbroken lineage. Yours stretches back centuries, millennia." Her lips curved faintly. "We do. Some see it as a legacy of unassailable power. Others see it as a burden, constantly striving to be worthy of our ancestors." He nodded, thoughtful. "Makes sense." There was a short pause, then, "Why were you chosen as heir?" She hesitated, uncertain how much to reveal, but something in his direct question, unvarnished, sincere, spurred her to answer. "My older brother died in a shuttle accident when I was young. After that, I inherited the right of succession. Officially, it's through a maternal line, but tragedy played its part." He watched her carefully. His gaze wasn't pitying but sympathetic in a restrained way. For a brief moment, Aurelia felt the impulse to ask about his life, how he ended up a mercenary. Yet the question never left her tongue because a distant alarm klaxon cut through the silence. An automated voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Priority summons. All high-security personnel report to the War Council chamber." "Priority summons. All high-security personnel." Aurelia straightened, tension coiling in her gut. "Let's go." Marcus followed without a word. The previous illusions of calm shattered as they raced through quarters, heading toward whatever new crisis had befallen Arathion. Bursting into the War Council chamber, they found a swirl of frantic technicians analyzing real-time data. A scanning frigate, the star Glaive, had entered Telos 5's orbit. Its transmissions now played on the central holo display, a nightmarish feed of blackened structures, once lush farmland reduced to a silent gray expanse. No bodies, no sign of an invasion. As if life had been erased, Aurelia's hand tightened on the console's edge. The Starglaive's pilot was speaking, shaky-voiced. "Everything's just gone. We're scanning for survivors. Please stand by." Then the feed abruptly flickered to static. Next came a sharp hum, followed by a voice not belonging to any Arathion. It sounded hollow, layered, like many throats speaking at once. "The cycle returns, the hunger stirs, all shall be devoured." Aurelia felt a chill race along her spine. She'd never heard anything like it. Marcus, near her shoulder, went taut. Suddenly, the pilot's voice returned in a rush, screaming, "They're here! They're—" Static swallowed the transmission. The last image was a glimpse of something massive and shapeless moving in the distance, swirling with black tendrils. The feed cut off completely. A heavy silence reigned. Nobody knew what to say. Aurelia forced herself to speak. "Do we have the Starglave's coordinates?" "Affirmative," Captain Idris replied gravely. "But we lost them. The signal's gone." Advisors and officers fell into anxious debate, culminating in an argument. Some demanded immediate retaliation with the Empire's might. Others cautioned that a power capable of neutralizing Telos 5 would devour any reckless attack. Marcus stepped forward, voice calm yet firm. "Your Highness, we should gather more intel. Send stealth drones, smaller targets with better odds of returning data. If a rescue attempt is made blindly, it might cost us entire fleets." Aurelia nodded. "Agreed." One older general scowled. "We should not cower behind machines. Arathion does not fear the unknown." Marcus met his gaze without blinking. "Fear can save lives. Rushing in might lose them all." Aurelia raised a hand. "Enough. Captain Idris, prepare a series of stealth drones. Launch them immediately. Bring back comprehensive scans. No open confrontation yet." A swirl of acknowledgments filled the air. She felt an unexpected sense of relief at Marcus's alignment with her reasoning. Perhaps the Council had chosen wisely by sending this pragmatic human her way. The stealth drones soared toward Telos 5 later that evening. By dawn, they returned with haunting, fragmented recordings. Towering edifices stood intact but eerily empty, as though the populace had vanished mid-step. Drifting in the planet's sky were swirling clouds of black flecks, presumably some form of active energy or nanotech-like presence. A deeper scan captured glimpses of an enormous spire-like structure protruding from where the Talos capital once stood. It was neither Arathion architecture nor standard alien design. It seemed organic, yet formed of an obsidian-like mineral. "This is the center," Captain Idris declared, pointing at a fuzzy hollow image of the spire. "It emits a field that disrupts electronics. The drones barely escaped with partial data." Aurelia and her war council pored over the details. The energy signature round that spire was off the charts. Something dwelled there, something that turned an entire planet into a silent wasteland. Marcus studied the readouts in silence, arms crossed, brows furrowed. She noticed him rubbing absently at a faint scar on his temple, as if it stung. Then he spoke. "Whatever that spire is," he said, "it's the key, a fortress, or some sort of focal point. But a fortress implies defenses. We'll face more than an empty city." He was right. Aurelia scanned the images of motionless silhouettes that, upon close inspection, looked like they could have once been citizens or soldiers, but they were unnaturally elongated, twisted. "I see them too," she murmured. "What are they?" No one answered. A hush stilled the entire chamber. Captain Idris cleared his throat. "We need an expedition on the ground. If we break through the interference field, perhaps we can destroy that spire or at least discover its purpose." "We'll send a well-armed contingent," Aurelia decided, "along with scientific experts. I'll lead them." Predictably, an uproar ensued. Advisors objected to sending the heir of Arathion to a threat-laden dead world. But Aurelia was resolute. "My presence may rally the troops," she said. "I won't command from behind palace walls." Marcus stepped forward, voice low. "If you're going, I'm going." Her heart thudded at the bluntness. She felt a flicker of gratitude for his unwavering sense of protection. "Yes, you'll accompany me. We leave at dawn. Prepare the flagship, the Celestial Wing." Despite the tense disapproval, no one challenged her further. Preparations began immediately. Soldiers loaded heavy weaponry. Scientists packed scanning instruments and protective suits. Aurelia, for her part, swapped her ceremonial attire for Arathian combat gear, a slender exosuit that shimmered black under the quarter lights, built for agility and laced with protective plating. The crest of Arathion glowed faintly on her chest. As she oversaw the final checks, Marcus approached, also clad in a simpler but sturdily made exosuit of human design. He carried an archaic ballistic rifle slung over his shoulder, a curious choice in a world where most use plasma or energy-based weaponry. "You still choose bullets over beams?" Aurelia asked, recalling the moment she'd seen him train with it in the palace's firing range. He gave a wry shrug. Energy weapons can be jammed by certain fields or reflect off exotic armor. A bullet just keeps going, more reliable in some scenarios. She chuckled despite the dread twisting in her gut. Pragmatic. I appreciate that. Then in a softer tone, she added, try not to die, Marcus. I have too many responsibilities already without losing a decent bodyguard. A flicker of a smile reached his lips. I'll do my best, Princess. Unconsciously, she lingered on him for a heartbeat longer before turning away. In the looming shadows of war, she found a peculiar comfort in his presence, something she couldn't quite name. The battleship's celestial wing cut through space, escorted by smaller frigates. Approaching Telos felt like sailing into a silent grave. Wreckage from starships and orbital stations drifted near the planet's gravitational pull. No lights, no transmissions. Even from orbit, one could sense a desolation that was both physical and metaphysical. Upon Aurelia's order, the landing parties embarked in dropships. She joined the lead craft alongside Marcus, Captain Idris, and a half-dozen elite troopers in sleek black armor. Tension buzzed in the cramped confines. The pilot announced the readiness check, then the thrusters roared to life, launching them into Telos V's atmosphere. Orange-hued clouds gave way to an endless gray plain. The capital city, Telora City, lay in ruins, though the buildings remained eerily intact. As the dropship touched down near an abandoned square, Aurelia surveyed the scene through the viewing window. Twisted lampposts lined the deserted streets. Windows gaped like hollow sockets of skulls. Where was the population of millions? A mechanical hiss indicated the dropship's hatch opening. A wave of thick, stale air rushed in. The troopers advanced first, fanning out with rifles raised. Aurelia stepped onto the dusty street, the ground cracking slightly under her weight. Marcus flanked her, scanning rooftops, corners, any spot that might hide a threat. Captain Idris led them deeper into the city, heading toward the spire's faint silhouette miles away. Overhead, the sky shifted into a muted darkness, even though local day had not ended. It was as if an oppressive gloom weighed on the atmosphere itself. This place is more than abandoned, Aurelia murmured. It feels wrong. Marcus's face was tense. There's a smell, too. Hard to describe, like burned metal and something rotted. He tapped a small console on his wrist. Biosigns are minimal. We're picking up faint readings of something, possibly mutated life or reanimated tissue. Lovely, Aurelia muttered. They advanced through winding streets. Broken vehicles lay scattered. Unfinished meals sat on cafe tables. Everything seemed paused in the middle of everyday life. She found herself shivering. This city had once teemed with life. Arathion families, students, workers. Now it felt like a stage after the actors had been spirited away by an unseen hand. After half an hour, the group reached a large public square. In the center rose a statue of an Arathion founder, his face contorted in silent horror, though that was obviously not the sculptor's design. Something had warped the metal. Aurelia frowned, stepping closer to investigate the statue's distortion. Then she froze. A single figure stood at the square's far edge, wearing tattered civilian clothing. A woman, perhaps, but her limbs were elongated, her head tilted at an impossible angle. She seemed to tremble in place. Captain Idris quickly signaled everyone to hold position, weapons up. Hello, Aurelia called. We're here to help. Are you injured? The figure twitched, then turned. Her face was blank, featureless. Black fluid dripped from where eyes should have been. Marcus swore under his breath. Then the figure lunged with inhuman speed. Aurelia barely dodged as it swiped a claw-like hand at her. A flurry of gunfire erupted. The troopers unleashed energy bolts. Marcus fired 2 bullets from his rifle. The figure's torso exploded in a slick of dark fluid. She collapsed to the ground, writhing, and even severed as she was, she kept crawling toward them with horrifying determination. It was Captain Idris who aimed a final shot to the head. The figure jerked, then fell silent. A hush lingered, broken only by Aurelia's ragged breathing. Stars protect us, she muttered. Marcus surveyed the remains, expression grim. That was once an Arathion woman, he said softly. Now, warped. No one replied. The reality of Telos V's fate settled over them like a heavy shroud. If that fate awaited them, they would find no mercy, no chance at normalcy again. They resumed their trek with renewed caution, shooting glances over shoulders and covering every possible approach. Here and there, they encountered more twisted beings, once citizens, soldiers, or officials, now puppet-like husks. Some were docile, lurking in alleyways, while others attacked with sudden ferocity. Each engagement was short and savage. Marcus's ballistic rounds proved brutally effective. Aurelia soon realized the density of these horrors increased as they neared the black spire that dominated the horizon. Even from a mile away, it radiated a low hum that rippled through the air like distant thunder. Her skin prickled. When they finally rounded the last street, the spire rose before them, its obsidian-like surface glinting under that dim, unnatural sky. It stood perhaps 20 stories tall, shaped in jagged geometry that made her eyes ache if she stared too long. Veins of faint purple light pulsed along its sides. A circular plaza led up to it, strewn with shattered vehicles and bodies, Arathion troopers in advanced armor. This had once been a final stand. The presence of black fluid and contorted remains confirmed it had not ended well. Captain Idris signaled a halt. "We have to set up a perimeter," he said, voice tight. "Scout for an entry point. Goddess only knows what's inside." Aurelia nodded and motioned for two of the troopers to circle the plaza's left flank, while the others checked the right. She stayed near Marcus, who was reloading his rifle with swift economy. Each metallic click echoed in her ears. Then, from within the spire, came a slow rumbling, like a heartbeat from something sleeping too long. Aurelia's nerves screamed at her to run, but she forced herself to maintain composure. A voice rippled in the open air, similar to the earlier broadcast, but more direct, almost intimate. "We see you. We taste your fear. Surrender." The troopers jerked, scanning for a loudspeaker or figure, but the voice seemed to emanate from the spire itself. Aurelia's throat constricted. Something inside that structure was aware of them, able to speak in that layered, sinister tone. Marcus locked eyes with her. She caught the flicker of a memory or nightmare behind them, as if he'd faced something like this before. His jaw clenched. "We don't surrender," he said, addressing no one and everything all at once. The spire's surface began to shift, forming a doorway of sorts. A faint, swirling glow lured them. This felt like an invitation. "We can't ignore it," Aurelia said. "We came here for answers." Captain Idris nodded. "Troopers, defensive formation. Princess, stay back." She gave him a firm look. "I'll be careful, but I'm not here to hide." Marcus drew closer quietly. "I've got your back." He didn't embellish the promise. He didn't vow to keep her unscathed. But that look, steady, unwavering, steadied her heart. "Then let's move," she whispered. They stepped inside the black spire. The interior was a vast chamber lined with organic-like walls. They glistened as though coated in oily resin. The pulsing purple veins ran overhead, casting a dim light that made it possible to see a floor littered with broken Arathian gear. Some lumps might have been bodies, or might have been something else entirely. At the chamber's center rose a platform shaped like overlapping crescents. A swirl of dark vapor wafted there, as if emanating from a deeper level. Aurelia felt the hair on her neck rise. No immediate sign of monstrous figures greeted them, but the oppressive atmosphere weighed on everyone's nerves. A hush so profound reigned that each breath seemed too loud. Captain Idris signaled a squad to guard the entrance. Aurelia and Marcus advanced cautiously up a narrow ramp leading toward that swirling black vapor. Each step made the floor tremble with an unsettling, wet crackle. Halfway up, Aurelia thought she heard a whispering chorus, like distant voices chanting. Marcus's posture tensed. She realized he heard it too. They locked eyes. Then from the swirling darkness, multiple shapes materialized. Clad in ragged Arathion armor, these were no mindless husks. Their eyes flickered with an intelligent malice. They moved in unison, stepping forward, brandishing both conventional rifles and black-bladed melee weapons that crackled with unnatural energy. A figure at the front of this group wore the insignia of a Telos 5 commander, though his face was partially stripped, revealing black tendon-like growth. "Kneel," the figure hissed in that layered voice, "or perish." Captain Idris, flanking Aurelia, barked, "Stand down! In the name of Arathion, "Commander, if any part of you is still in there, listen." But the figure only sneered, raised his weapon, and opened fire. Chaos broke loose. Aurelia dove behind a chunk of twisted metal's energy bolts whipped past. Marcus returned fire with ruthless precision, each bullet finding a target's head or heart. The troopers behind them advanced in formation, plasma rifles spitting green arcs. Sparks lit the chamber, revealing the attackers' twisted forms. Aurelia saw an Arathion woman near the back, half her face blackened and elongated, chanting in an eerie tongue. She seemed to be fueling the spire's energies. Another hail of plasma soared toward the group. Some went down, but more closed in, relentless. Aurelia flung herself from cover, hurling a stun grenade. It exploded with a dull flash, momentarily knocking the twisted foes off balance. Marcus seized that opportunity to rush in, firing at close range, pivoting to avoid a black-bladed slash. Aurelia slid behind him, plasma sidearm raised, firing at the assailants who tried to flank him. An electrifying synergy formed between them, his lethal close-quarter skill paired with her precise covering shots. Captain Idris's troopers hammered the line from the other side. One by one, the corrupted soldiers fell. Their screams, layered with that otherworldly echo, turned the air thick with dread. When the last attacker crumpled, the chamber fell silent again. But the swirling darkness at the center platform churned ominously. Aurelia's heart pounded in her ears. She advanced carefully, ignoring the stench of ozone and decay. A voice, deeper now, with unspeakable resonance, emanated from the black vapor. "You cannot stand against the void that hungers. I awaken. I devour. I will claim you." Marcus exhaled, gripping his rifle so tightly his knuckles whitened. "Try it," he muttered, though sweat beaded at his temple. Before they could react, a wave of dark energy blasted forth. Aurelia felt it slam into her mind, a psychic assault that threatened to drown her in a flood of raw malice. Her vision distorted, flickering with images of galaxies dying, of countless worlds reduced to silent husks. She staggered, letting out a strangled gasp. In that swirl of horror, she heard Marcus's voice. "Aurelia!" Through the haze, she saw him drop to a knee, one hand pressed to his temple. He was fighting it too. She latched onto his voice, his presence. Focusing every ounce of will, she forced the darkness aside, inch by agonizing inch. The psychic pressure receded enough for her to see Marcus struggling, chest heaving, eyes aflame with defiance. She reached out, clasping his shoulder to anchor him. Captain Idris and the troopers had collapsed, reeling from the mental onslaught. Aurelia knew they had seconds before this wave claimed them all. Gritting her teeth, she brought her plasma pistol to bear on the swirling vortex. She fired. The energy bolt exploded on contact, sending shards of black fluid and obsidian rock spraying. The wave of darkness faltered. She seized the reprieve, helping Marcus to his feet, her breath ragged. The floor trembled, cracks spreading like spiderwebs. Something beneath them roiled, as if the spire itself was alive and in pain. They had to get out, or push forward. Aurelia refused to let this dark presence expand unchecked. Summoning a hidden reserve of courage, she advanced once more toward the heart of the swirling darkness. A set of spiraling stairs led downward from the dais. Aurelia gestured for the remaining troopers to hang back, to keep the main chamber secure. She descended with Marcus and Captain Idris, who was pale but resolute. "I'm not leaving your highness unguarded," Idris insisted, ignoring his likely concussion from the psychic barrage. Together, they descended into a cavernous subterranean room. Pulsing black structures coiled along the walls, throbbing with luminous purple veins. At the center lay what resembled a massive chrysalis formed of the same obsidian material. It radiated intense waves of psychic energy that made Aurelia's knees weak. "The source," Marcus whispered, voice hoarse. As they neared, shapes peeled off from the chrysalis's surface, twisted, faceless forms. They moved jerkily, forming a ring around the three intruders. Aurelia and Idris raised their pistols. Marcus readied his rifle. Before they could open fire, the chrysalis itself cracked. A swirling blackness poured forth, amorphous, roiling. And in it, Aurelia saw shifting lights like stars dying and being reborn in the gloom. A presence so old it defied mortal comprehension. She realized that the god some might have once spoken of was not a deity in any benevolent sense, rather a cosmic predator that thrived on devouring life and leaving empty shells behind. A sonorous roar echoed through the chamber, not with air, but directly in their minds. I am the void between stars. I am the devourer of hope. Kneel. Captain Idris collapsed with a pained cry, blood trickling from his nose. Aurelia's vision blurred as she fought for mental stability. But an uncanny resilience seemed to flicker in Marcus's gaze. Though battered, he remained upright, teeth gritted. She recalled his earlier comment that he'd faced horrors in the frontier. Perhaps this was not his first encounter with unimaginable threats. Still, Aurelia sensed the entity focusing on him, drawn by something in his soul. The swirling black vortex lashed out in tendrils, attempting to entwine him. Marcus let out a snarl, back arching. She saw his free hand clawing at the air, resisting the pull. "Marcus!" she screamed, voice lost amid the psychic storm. He fought, bullet after bullet ripping into the tendrils. The creature howled, fragments of swirling darkness scattering. But like a tide, it surged back, trying to drag him deeper into its essence. Aurelia poured plasma shots into the mass, each searing chunk away. But the monster's attention was locked on Marcus. Then she heard it hiss. "Yours is the will we seek. Surrender! Become our avatar." Marcus coughed, struggling to breathe. "Go to hell." In that final moment, Aurelia realized the creature had singled him out, possibly because of his raw determination or some intangible human grit. If he surrendered, it would seize his mind, his body, turning him into an unstoppable weapon. If he fell, so would they all. Panic flared in her chest. She refused to watch him consumed. Summoning the last of her composure, she sprinted forward. With her empty hand, she yanked a specialized high-energy grenade from her belt, the only device rumored to disrupt high-level psionic fields, normally used as a last resort. She slammed it onto the swirling, black mass. The creature recoiled, shrieking in that layered voice. "No!" A blinding flash erupted. The chamber shook violently. Aurelia felt a rift in the psychic pressure, like a bubble bursting. Marcus broke free from the coiling shadows. Idris groaned from behind an outcropping, stunned but alive. Then in the next heartbeat, Aurelia grabbed Marcus's arm, forcing them both to retreat. The chrysalis shattered with a sound like glass and thunder colliding. Bits of obsidian rained down, each chunk sizzling with malignant energy. The black vortex convulsed, the monstrous presence howling in pain. Together, Aurelia and Marcus staggered up the staircase. The spire above them groaned, losing structural cohesion. Troopers rushed in to assist, dragging Idris out. Cracks split the main chamber. With a final quake, the entire structure began collapsing. Outside, in that dead city, the ground rumbled. The tower's apex swayed, then crashed, sending a mushroom of dust billowing. Aurelia coughed, leaning on a battered column as the spire collapsed into itself. Choking on dust, she stared in awe. Where the spire had stood, black rubble now lay scattered. The oppressive gloom above started to thin, letting a shred of real sunlight bleed through the cloud cover. A wave of hush settled over the troopers. Some of the twisted husks in the city street collapsed to the ground, inert, whatever cursed energy controlling them apparently severed. We did it?" Captain Idris asked hoarsely, wiping grime from his eyes. Aurelia wasn't so sure. "We heard it, drove it off perhaps. But if that presence is as vast as it seemed, it may still exist in some form." Marcus nodded grimly, leaning heavily on his rifle. His breathing was ragged, sweat streaming down his face. But the haunted look in his eyes gradually eased. "We're alive, though," he managed. She swallowed hard, reaching out to him. He took her hand, pressing it lightly before letting go. Relief flooded her veins. Despite the horrors, they had crippled the monstrous threat at Telos 5. For now. The survivors regrouped at the landing site, accompanied by newly arrived medical teams. They retrieved the battered from the collapsed spire, though many had perished. The city stood as a silent tomb to hundreds of thousands who once called it home. While the troopers established a temporary command post, Aurelia and Marcus retreated to a corner of the dropship's hold. Her heart still thundered, every muscle on edge. She noticed a cut above Marcus's eyebrow, trickling blood, and instinctively reached for a medikit. "Hold still," she murmured, carefully dabbing at the wound with a sterile patch. He winced, but otherwise stayed silent. The hush between them was heavy with unspoken gratitude and lingering adrenaline. Aurelia had glimpsed the raw terror in his eyes when that entity tried to claim him. She realized how close she'd been to losing him in a fate worse than death. Finally, she broke the silence. "Thank you for not giving up." Marcus's lips curved wryly. "Same to you. You pulled me out at the last moment." She lowered her gaze, focusing on cleaning his cut. "I'm not sure I could have borne it if you'd been taken," she admitted softly. His hand found hers, gently steadying her. A current of unspoken emotion flickered between them, acknowledgement of how deeply they had started to care, forged in the crucible of this nightmare. The hum of the dropship's machinery underscored the quiet. No grand declarations, but that brief moment said enough. Once patched, Marcus pulled away, clearing his throat. "What next?" Aurelia's face hardened. "We salvage any survivors if there are any left. We ensure the Empire understands the magnitude of this threat, and we vow to stop it, permanently." Marcus's expression turned grim. "It might return, or manifest somewhere else." She met his eyes. "Then we fight again." A small, tired smile tugged at his mouth. "Yes, Princess." Days turned into weeks. Telos 5 was quarantined, declared a forbidden zone by official edict. Recovery teams worked tirelessly, sifting through rubble, cataloging remnants of the spire's alien composition. The Empire teetered on the edge of panic, fear gnawing at the populace. If an incomprehensible force could lay waste to an entire planet, who was truly safe? Aurelia found herself in a swirl of official debriefings and public statements. Captain Idris resumed his duties, though he carried a limp and walked with a cane. She recognized the guilt in his eyes. So many had died. So few answers. Had they truly halted the void that hungers, or merely driven it underground? Marcus was never far from her side. His presence had grown not only as a protector, but as a silent confidant. In small snatches of time, they shared glances that spoke volumes, how the burden weighed on both, how each was an anchor for the other. At night, Aurelia struggled to sleep. When nightmares of the black vortex threatened to consume her, she would recall the calm, certain look in Marcus's eyes and take solace. One late evening, after a grueling council session, Aurelia slipped into a lesser-known wing of the palace gardens. Soft lights illuminated carefully cultivated trees with violet blossoms. She welcomed the hush, letting tension seep out with each breath. She almost didn't notice Marcus in the shadows, presumably following protocol to ensure her safety. He cleared his throat. "Apologies, I didn't mean to intrude." She turned, a half smile on her lips. "It's fine, Marcus. Actually, I'd like your company." They strolled among the blossoms, the night air cool. For a few precious minutes, no specter of cosmic horror loomed. No political pressures hovered. Just two weary souls. Eventually, Aurelia came to a stop near a stone bench, gazing up at the starry sky. "We're small," she said softly. "Amid these billions of suns, a cosmic predator that can snuff out a civilization in hours. What hope do we truly have?" Marcus hesitated, then placed a hand on her shoulder. The gesture was warm, protective. "We stand because we have to. We fight back because giving up is worse. I've seen terrible things, Aurelia." He rarely addressed her by name without a title. She savored the intimacy of it. "But I've also seen that even in the darkest times, we can make a difference." She turned to him, her eyes gleaming with unshed tears. "I'm supposed to be the strong one, the heir of Arathian, but these last weeks, I've felt so powerless." He brushed a stray lock of her hair aside, calloused fingertips gentle against her cheek. "You are strong. Strength isn't never feeling fear. It's feeling it and moving forward anyway. You did that on Telos 5. You saved lives, including mine." Her breath caught at the nearness of him. The raw sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. Without overthinking, she rose onto her toes and pressed a light kiss to his lips. It lasted barely a moment. He inhaled sharply, surprise flickering in his eyes. Then he gently cupped her face, returning the kiss with a quiet, smoldering warmth that banished thoughts of horror, if only for an instant. She felt his heart pounding as fast as her own, his breath mingling with hers. When they finally parted, the hush that followed was electric. Neither apologized. Neither spoke. Words would only cheapen the fragile honesty they'd found. For those few seconds, Aurelia realized she'd found something precious in this human man. Hope, and a willingness to face the vast unknown side by side. Morning came. As the sun rose, the old rumor networks buzzed with fresh reports. From distant star systems, there were signs of similar black spires forming. Small, scattered so far, but reminiscent of Talos V's monstrous creation. The Empire braced for a new wave of attacks. Aurelia took immediate action, coordinating with planetary governors to quarantine suspect zones, sending out special detachments to destroy spire-like formations before they fully matured. In a grand convocation, she stood at the palace's largest hall, addressing hundreds of Arathion representatives. Marcus lingered discreetly at the perimeter, watching her back. She spoke of vigilance, unity, and the unbreakable will of Arathion. She spared no detail describing how a cosmic predator preyed on fear and isolation. It was a rallying cry. That evening, tired but resolute, she found Marcus waiting in the corridor. His presence steadied her frayed nerves. As they walked side by side, Aurelia glimpsed something in his expression. A question. "Are we truly ready?" she ventured. He considered a moment. "None of us can be fully ready for something like this, but we'll fight with everything we have. And we're not alone. We have each other." The simple conviction in his voice melted her doubts, if only for a moment. She nodded, stepping closer. Their hands brushed, fingers interlocking, forging a bond that transcended the old prejudices of empire and frontier. They were simply two people determined to save a galaxy from the woes of an ancient hunger. And so, as the days turned into the next great conflict, Aurelia of Arathion and Marcus Cleary led the charge. They carried scars from Telos 5, physical and emotional. But in those wounds lay strength. Where the cosmic void threatened to claim all life, they stood as a bright flame of defiance, armed not just with weapons, but with hope, unity, and a shared vow to protect each other at all costs. It would be a battle for the ages, waged across star systems, forging alliances among species once divided. Yet in the quiet spaces between the warring frontiers, in each gentle touch and knowing look, Aurelia and Marcus found a reason to believe that, even against a godlike hunger, the power of will and love could prevail. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the realms of daring heroes and cosmic threats. If you enjoyed the suspense, the action, and those unexpected twists, we have even more stories lined up that promise to keep you on the edge of your seat. By subscribing to our channel, you'll be the first to know whenever a new thrilling tale goes live. We're also eager to hear your personal reviews. Do you think Marcus could have fought the void alone? Was Princess Aurelia's courage the real game changer? Share your opinions in the comments and let us know where and how you love to listen to these stories. Your feedback fuels our passion and helps us create content you'll love.